ballot for the Winona County Soil and Water Conservation Board District candidates. Present with us this evening, we have candidates on the ballot from 2nd, 3rd, and 5th districts, and we will identify them in a moment. We want to welcome all of you in our audience, live audience this evening, and those who may be watching at home. We also want to thank the City of Winona for allowing us this educational forum in the council chambers. For those of you watching at home, and we really encourage this, it hasn't happened much this year, but we really encourage, call in your questions. We can always use more questions. 457-8280. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to become educated and participate in government. Well, as a league, we do study and take stands on issues. We do not endorse political parties or support candidates or tell the voters how to vote on referendum or constitutional questions. We will provide education in those areas, but we will not take a particular stand on them. We will read statements from candidates who are unable to attend the forum. This evening, we do not have any additional statements. This forum is intended to provide the voters with the information they can have to make an educated choice on the ballot. The views expressed in this educational forum are those from the candidates. We do encourage our members as individuals, as we encourage everyone in this audience to get involved in your community. Tonight, our timekeepers from Winona State University social work students are Kathy Woods and Catherine Allen. In 2016, the participation policy that the League of Women Voters has had for years in Minnesota was changed. We now will allow unopposed and/or individual candidates who choose to come to our forums, even in an opposed race, to attend, so that they may share their views with the audience and the public, and of course our voters. So, even if only one candidate had chosen to participate tonight, we would have held this forum in the interest of the public. Copies of this new participation policy have been provided to the candidates, and they are available to those of you in the live audience here this evening in City Hall. It's also available on the League of Women Voters website. I want to briefly talk about a couple of ground rules for the forum tonight. The audience is asked to be courteous and good listeners. It is a live TV broadcast. We ask you not to express any support or concern during the forum, but hold your applause to the end of the forum and then loudly thank these fine candidates for their participation. We remind everyone now, please turn off your cell phones and your pagers. Pictures and videotaping, which are not authorized by the League, have been prohibited. This forum is being taped by HBC. It may not be edited, and it must be broadcast in its entirety according to all FCC rules. The candidates may not use portions of this educational forum video in campaign ads or literature. And during this particular evening, we do ask our audience present to write your questions down or call in again, please, 457-8280. The League and our co-sponsors, which tonight are League members and members from Winona State University, will sort the questions, determine the priority, but the moderator has the last option to refuse a question. We will make a good attempt to do a variety of questions and cover many areas that could interest our audience that's listening tonight. The candidates do not know the questions in advance. Correct, gentlemen?
Correct.
Okay. Those citizens at home, again, we remind you, 457-8280. All questions become property of the League. The candidates will strictly observe time limits in their responses. Our timekeepers will hold up the cards to indicate the time that is about to expire. Once the stop card is displayed, the candidate can stop, and please do that and end your current sentence. Opening statements are 2 minutes, questions 1 minute, closing statements 1 minute. So with us this evening for our candidates are Bill Rokamp from the 3rd District, Soil and Water District, running unopposed. Next to Bill are Andy Cronenbusch and Terry Lane. They are running for the 5th district. Unable to attend this evening is Joshua Elsing. He is running unopposed, and he is running for the 2nd district. The candidates have allowed me to call them by their first names, so we would like to begin with the opening statement, and we're going to start with my far left. Bill, would you please give us your opening statement?
Thank you. My name is Bill Rokamp. I now live at 130 Oscamp Circle. Before I go any further, I'd just like to thank the League for having this. I think this is great. We, like I was saying, we live at 130 Oscamp Circle out in Gilmore Valley. I farmed with my wife, Jean, on our home farm, which is a 3rd-generation farm. We took it over from my parents in about 1976, and we just sold the dairy operation and one farm off this January to a great family from Washington State. I've had a fair amount of experience on boards. I was with Minnesota Milk Producers. It's a group that works with the legislature mostly. I was on that board as a director for 9 years. I was on a board with Southeast Ag Alliance for 6 years, was chairman for 2. I was on a board of AMPI, the co-op I sell milk to, and also was on Utica Township Board for 9 years, and was chairman there for 5 years. I guess that's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you, Bill. Andy Cronenbusch.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My wife Cindy and I have been married for 38 years. We've had the opportunity to live in quite a few parts of Winona County. I had 5 brothers, 3 sisters, but there was enough room for us all at home. So when we first got married, I lived by Fremont, Minnesota. Lived by Altura, where I grew up. Lived by Crystal Springs. Lived by Wyatteville. In the last 30 years, we've lived by just a mile north of Ridgway, Minnesota. I believe that's an asset for me because Winona County has different terrains, geography, and I'm pretty familiar with all of them. We have 3 children. Our eldest lives in Rochester. Our eldest son, our second son, Isaac, farms with me at home. We run about 850 acres. We own 180 tillable and rent the rest. And then my daughter lives in Cannon Falls and works in the food industry. I just thank you for the opportunity for being here.
Thank you, Andy. Terry.
Thank you. I'll echo their comments on thanking the League of Women Voters. This is important, so thank you again for that. I'm Terry Lane. I've been a resident of the county for 17 years. I retired in 2013. My wife and I own some property in Richmond Township, upon which we have a permanent conservation easement on the tillable acreage there. I don't have political experience or board experience, and I'm not a farmer. So I'll tell you that up front. I have had experience with the Soil and Water Conservation District staff. It's been a very positive experience. I'm 4 years into my prairie easement. The advice I got from them was excellent. I've enjoyed working with them. So when I was contacted about running for supervisor, I gladly accepted. I feel it's a way for me to potentially repay the community and the county for the good experience that I've had. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you all for your opening statements. Our first question, we're going to start with Andy. And this question is for all 3 of you. It will go around. What do you see to be the duties of the Soil Water District Supervisors?
After I decided to run, I didn't know for sure exactly what I was getting into, so I did go to the Soil and Water Conservation Office, and it's a pretty simple statement. It says here that soil and water conservation districts are local units of government that manage and direct natural resource management programs at local levels. I guess I can't answer it any better than that. I've never worked with the Soil and Water Conservation District itself. We've done things like that on our property on our own. I currently serve on the Farm Service Agency Board. I've got I'm on my 9th year. I got 1 year left, so I am familiar with the FSA office and the Soil and Water Conservation, but that's the best way I can explain it, is their description.
Thank you. Terry?
I too did a little research on the website. My understanding is that the Soil, Water, and Conservation District is a policy board. We don't really get involved in the actual day-to-day operations of the district. However, we do establish policies on travel, budgeting, oversee their comprehensive plan, their annual plan, and then work with the Soil and Water Conservation District staff to make sure that those policies are enacted and that we're operating under that policy that we've established.
Thank you. Bill?
My understanding of the duties of water and soil as a board member would be to oversee, the staff and make suggestions on how we should implement different programs, stuff like that. I think one thing that the board, could be, probably is, I'm not that familiar with the board, but is looking for sources of funds. If the Soil and Water Board had enough funds to do all the projects that are being requested of them, that would be a great thing, but funding is a hard thing to come by.
Thank you. The second question, we'll start with Terry. Can you share your strengths that will help you in your elected position?
Yes, I am a very good questioner and therefore a very good listener. I make it a policy not to provide opinions on subjects that I am uninformed on. I'll be honest about that with the fellow board members and the staff, and I'll do my best to learn all I can and work with all the other agencies that are part of the day-to-day activities of the district.
Thank you. Bill?
Could you repeat the question,
Surely.
please?
Can you share one of your strengths that will help you in your elected position?
I think probably my greatest strength is, as Terry said, being a good listener, and I like to talk, and I like listening to other people's ideas and stuff like, along those lines. I've been on quite a few boards, and that experience has helped me a lot as far as knowing where the direction we want to go to and how to work with people to get to accomplish the goals we set out to accomplish.
Thank you. Andy?
I guess I'd have to say I got two strengths that I'd like to mention. One earlier is, like I said, that I've lived almost all around Winona County, farming. And again, that's a strength, knowing knowing the land. When somebody comes in and says, I'd like to put in 1,000 feet of waterways or put in 3,000 feet of terraces, and with serving on the FSA board, redoing maps and stuff all the time, I've got a pretty wide view of Winona County. The other one is, like Bill, I've been an elected official. I served on the Pleasant Hill Town Board for 9 years. I was originally a volunteer fireman and rescue person for 17 and a half. Served on Winona County American Dairy Association for about 20 years. elected official for AMPI for 20 years. One of my biggest projects I was ever involved in is I got appointed to be the coordinator and chairman of doing enhanced 911 rural addressing in Winona County.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Andy. Your time is up.
oh, okay.
Thank you. Okay, we start this next question now with Bill. What are your most important priorities if you are elected?
My most important priorities would be carrying out help carrying out the programs that Soil and Water has, different conservation programs, and targeting projects, helping farmers that are, say, a priority in taking care of a problem that they might have. And also, I'll go back to the funding thing too. I don't know what capacity I would have at it, but I would sure try to entice our state legislators to give us a little more funding, or maybe a lot more funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
I got to agree with Bill. I believe funding is one of the biggest issues. I'm not real familiar with the whole process, soil and water conservation. The first while is going to be a learning experience. But I do know, and this is where funding, I got to learn more about it. I had a young neighbor who wanted to put in a pond and a diversion dike. He had them come out, and it was going to cost him $18,000. There's, 75% cost sharing. It would cost him, quite a chunk of money. He opted to do it on his own, and the whole project cost him $3,000. So we need funding, but we also got to see where this funding is going and how it's spent. Is it being used wisely? Because when I hear an instance like that, it brings question to my mind: is $18,000 versus $3,000 when he did it privately? Somewhere there's some give and take there, and I got to find out why and what it is.
Thank you. Terry?
Certainly the budget, finding matching monies. My understanding from the reading that I've done is there's a lot of grant money out there, and there are a lot of other state and county agencies who will do matching grants for projects. The day-to-day operations of the Soil and Water Conservation District, I think that's kind of out of our purview, but we can establish policies about how to use those grant monies, what agencies to pursue for them, and just be very creative in how we approach and find that additional money.
Thank you. This next question is more about funding, so we start with Andy. What can the Soil and Water Conservation District do to ensure it receives enough funding to carry out its mission?
I guess find new sources if possible. If my memory serves me correct, Mr. Schomeyer, who's in the audience, had a letter to the editor asking the county to raise what they applied to the soil and water by 40 cents. It's one way. Getting grants. Maybe looking at state legislature for, this is conservation. We should be getting some or more state money than what we are currently getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, thank you. I mentioned the matching grant monies. The legislature would be another resource, of course, lobbying the legislature as best we can, working through our local representatives. That's really a tough one. Everyone's under budget constraints and a lot of budget pressure. So I think the more creative that we can get in pursuing those monies, the more effective we're going to be serving our constituencies.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I agree with Andy and Terry that, looking for matching grants and asking for more money from the legislature is a good thing. Also, I was at a meeting down in Lanesboro. Night was that? Tuesday, I guess. this one watershed, one plan project is getting on the way. And from what I took away from that meeting was that once that gets going, there very possibly could be more funding coming. And we wouldn't be overlapping as much. So that would save money that way too. So both through being a little more efficient.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Terry. What should Soil and Water Conservation District do to encourage landowners to maintain the 50-foot buffer strip along waterways to protect the groundwater contamination?
Oh, good question. All we can, first of all. Farming isn't getting any easier or more profitable for a lot of smaller farm operations. So I think one thing that we can provide to them is ways to conserve and still make money off of their land. So I think that would be of interest to them. Education would be a big part of that too, and how it does save our resources of water by doing so.
Thank you. Bill?
The 50-foot buffer is, you said waterways, it's really streams.
Streams.
Yeah, and rivers. And as far as I know, the 50-foot buffer is not, it's not, what's the word? Well, it's the law now. So, and I was at the meeting today up at Lewiston, talked about that a little bit. And for the most part, you know, we've got, I think it was 1,900 miles of stream banks, and about 900 of them, or over 1,000 of them, are in compliance now. So it's the 900 that we have to work on. And I don't know the law completely, but I think there is some bite in this law if you
Thank you.
don't.
Thank you. Andy?
Serving on the Farm Service Agency Committee and being a farmer, it gives you kind of different sights of it all. Personally, I think that because of the lowering number of cattle we have in Winona County, we don't have the need for the grass or the hay that's being there, forced to put in there. I would like to see it be allowed to be entered into the CRP program. If you're not going to be allowed to farm it and it's for conservation, I would just like to see it be, again, allowed into the CRP program.
Would you please explain CRP program? I'm going to take the moderator's privilege. CRP program means?
Conservation Reserve Program. It's to take highly erodible soils out of production.
Thank you, that helps with education. Do the other two of you agree with that definition?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Did I take any of his time? Couple seconds.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Okay, yeah, CRP program, and when having medical background, I can talk that jargon too, so I just help educate our voters, okay? So the next question, we're going to start now with Bill. Let's see, and so Bill, this is a different topic. Where are each of you on the frac sand issue being considered by the Winona County Board? Proposed full ban or proposed compromise?
I am, excuse me, I'm for the proposed compromise. I think there's been, this issue has really divided the county. And I think with this compromise, we've got a chance to mend some wounds that are very deep. And my biggest concern about a ban on frac sand has got really not much to do with sand and everything to do with land rights. Land rights seem to be, well, they're guaranteed in the Constitution, it's one of the foundations. Also, land rights, owners' land rights in this country are slowly being eroded away. And I think this total frac sand ban.
Thank you.
Yep.
Andy?
I really don't think this is a question for this panel, but I'm going to read this opening statement I made. Water and soil conservation districts are local units of government that manage and direct natural resources management programs at local levels. I interpret that as saying we have sand, which we've had in Winona County forever, been mined ever since people lived here. In my opinion, it's the Soil and Water Conservation's duty to see that if it's mined, it's done in a correct and safe way. So to answer the question, I'm going to say go with the compromise because I don't believe in the ban at all.
Thank you. Terry?
I would concur with the compromise as long as it does not itself compromise our soil and water resources.
Thank you. Okay. The next question, we start now with you again, Andy, okay? Conservation of soil and water is vital to Winona County, agriculture and sensitive lands. Would you support levy authority for soil and water conservation districts to do to do this vital conservation work? Why or why not?
By levy, I'm assuming like a half
Like a
cent?
tax,
A
yeah, like
tax.
the, yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't know enough about the funding to give you a fair answer. So I'm going to just say I am not familiar with the funding enough to know. So I'm just not going to give you an answer.
Thank you. Terry?
Would you reread
Sure.
reread the question, please?
Conservation of soil and water is vital to Winona County agriculture and sensitive lands. Would you support levy authority, or technically a type of taxation, levy authority, for soil and water conservation districts to do this vital conservation work? Why or why not?
I would not support it because it's not in the charter of what a soil and water conservation district does. We establish policies, we don't propose levies.
Thank you. Bill?
Yes, I wouldn't support a levy either. We are funded by taxes now to a certain point, probably pretty close to 100%. And to put a levy on top of that, I think is the wrong way to go. I think we need to find extra funding, but we need to do it without putting more tax burden on the taxpayers than they have now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we start with you, Terry. A little bit different topic. We know that soil and water conservation is important for our health. What current projects are you aware of that protect these assets?
I think any project that soil and water conservation undertakes would protect those assets. Clean water is primary to good health. Good soil is primary to good farming and food production and cattle production. So all of those things that we do would impact that.
Thank you. Bill?
I agree totally with Terry. Water quality is number one concern, and that's a big health concern too. So, yeah, I believe that anything the soil and water does is directly connected to health also. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
I agree with both of these gentlemen. I'm going to go one step further and say the programs that are available to the farmers and the way the farmers farm help conserve the soil and water. Just mentioned was the 50-foot buffers, grass waterways, diversion ponds that are built on the farms, contoured strips, contoured farming, all are ways along with using the least amount of fertilizers and chemicals that it needs to produce a crop, are all steps that farmers do on their own and other ones that they do along with Soil and Water Conservation District.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to start with you, Bill.
Okay.
How should the Soil and Water Conservation District tackle invasive species?
That's a good question. Well, first you have to identify them where they are, what significance they have as far as detrimental, and I think a lot of research is being done on that around the county, and just what streams, what plants we have that are invasive, where they are the worst, and I think we would start by locating the worst invasive species, and then putting all of our effort into cleaning that up, and then just go down the line from there. But it's a huge job, and I don't know if we can. I doubt if we'll ever eradicate, but I think we can control.
Thank you. Andy?
I guess I'd like to know what kind of invasive species are they talking about? Is this in the Mississippi River with the mussels, or is this buckthorn in the woods that harbor the bugs that infest our crops? Is it some of the weeds that are becoming resistant to chemicals? We have to identify whichever problem it is, where it is, and then work with the departments of agriculture that work with that. For example, the buckthorn, you would work with the forestry department. Invasive weeds that are developing, you'd have to work with the local farmers and chemical suppliers, or the farmer with moldboard plowing to bury the seeds deeper, crop rotation, things like that. So it's a pretty broad question to give a direct answer to when they didn't specify what invasive species.
Thank you. Terry?
In general, I say if the more we can do to support farmers and landowners to combat invasive species, and I'm speaking strictly on the land now because there is an aquatic invasive species program, the better off we're all going to be. I planted a prairie on our property, and I do have some invasive species in there, namely locust trees. And I've received information from the Soil and Water Conservation District on how to combat them. They've consulted put me in contact with the DNR forestry agent on what to do to how to eradicate them. So I think the more that we can support and encourage landowners to take care of them, the better off we're all going to be.
Thank you. This is a little bit of a follow-on about invasive species, but has a different twist to the question. In recent years, the Soil and Water Conservation District has taken on new programs not part of its traditional role, such as curbing aquatic invasive species. Because of those new programs, came with adequate funding, and its traditional programs did not. Do you support this change? Is it avoidable? And we would start with Andy.
I don't know much about it, but the way you read the question, I would be supportive of it, using the money that came with that, and then using the money that we have for the programs that we had prior to the invasive species program.
Thank you. Terry?
I think everything is interrelated, so clean water and good soil conservation and preventing erosion, they all go together. So I would support funding for that also. I think they're all interrelated. The more you do for one, I think the better off all the other factors are going to be also.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I think, with the funding, just everybody, citizens' education on what they can do to help stop the spread. I know I fish a lot on the Mississippi, and I always clean my boat and clean the trailer and everything after, empty out the live wells, make sure everything is clean and stuff before I go back on the road again with it. And I think, educating citizens on ways that they could possibly help control the spread of the invasive species would be a great way to spend that money.
Thank you. The next question now, we're going to start with Terry. Please address the issues of agriculture runoff, of chemicals applied, and animal waste.
I think it's important to address those issues within reason. Farmers have it tough enough right now. I like the idea of the 50-foot buffer zone. I think that's a great start. Again, education is another important part of that. I think there are ways that some of the pests can be controlled, not using chemicals. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We just need to continue with education and current programs.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I think, again, education programs that Soil and Water might have on how to stop runoff or at least minimize it. Such as you don't want to go out and spread manure when there's a big black cloud coming from the west. Timing sometimes is critical. And anybody that's got over a 300 animal unit farm has to have a manure plan. And that usually it's a plan that's they use University of Minnesota software. I know they'll show you, how much manure you can put on each acre. They use soil tests to determine that and previous crops and what type of yield you expect to get off of that. Those tools are very important.
Thank you. Andy?
I believe that the programs we've got in existence now are adequate. There's funding out there for, example, any manure runoff of any feedlot has to be caught over 300 animal units, has to go through a sediment basin. Any of those that are smaller than 300 animal units has to have a minimum of a 300-foot strip grass waterway to filter the any runoff, to filter out the solids. As far as the chemical part, I know a lot of people don't like the word GMO, but the more GMO products that we have, the less chemicals we need to control insects and such. So I guess using technology that's available for the farmer is the best way to control chemical runoff. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this question, and it's the 12th question, gentlemen, moving right along. So this one we start with Bill. Which conservation programs do you think have the best success?
I would say waterways in fields being engineered right and stuff to channel that water so we don't lose the soil in these heavy rains and stuff. I think the money that is spent to put waterways in fields is probably some of the best money spent in the county right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
I really can't narrow it down to one. Just like I said a minute ago, the basins to catch runoff from feedlots, the grass waterways to filter them, the diversion dikes, grass waterways in the fields, contoured farming. They all got to work together. And if you don't do them together, if you do one and not the other, you're not going to have the results. So the best answer to that question, I got to say that they all got to work together. There's no one particular answer for any field. You might need several in order to conserve, even if it's just minimum tillage, for example. You have to have them all together to have a successful plan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Terry?
I would say, from my limited experience on this subject, watersheds and the CRP and then conservation easements, I think are great. Like I said before, it's harder and harder for farmers to make money. Idling some of the acreage that's not as productive and putting those back into natural state prairies, I think properly funding those programs, I think is a great way to go. It's good for the farmer and it's good for the Soil and Water Conservation District.
Thank you. Andy, this question, we start with you. What role should the Soil and Water Conservation District play in Planning Commission, and I'm assuming Winona County Planning Commission, decisions on land use within the county?
I think that the Planning Commission, if have any questions on when something's being proposed, the best way of putting up maybe a dike to control the runoff until the project is done. Soil and Water Conservation District has got a lot of information out there that individuals doing a project can use to modify or to eliminate any runoff. And if the Planning Commission needs that information, all they'd have to do is call and request it, and it could play an important role in whether or not a particular project, especially if it's in a highly rollable area, would be passed or not. I think it's a good idea to use them. We have them, use them.
Thank you. Terry?
I think increasing awareness by attending those meetings at the county level, educating them on the programs that are available, and just making sure that they're aware of the conditions that landowners face and of the programs that are available through soil and water conservation.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I think soil and water should be used as a resource to answer questions. Say that the Planning Commission is working on a certain project, whether it's a manure basin, a filter strip, or whatever. The soil and water has the expertise on how to build them, how long they should be, how wide they should be, and stuff like that. As far as making any just suggestions without being asked, I don't know if the soil and water is in the position or even wants to be in a position of doing that.
Thank you. For our next question, we start with you, Terry, but we're going to do a small commercial.
Okay.
Okay. Once more, we do wish to ask our television viewing audience to consider phoning in questions. There's still plenty of time. 457-8280. Thank you. So, Terry, this question is for you, and it is, would you support any county initiative to increase the animal unit cap?
You know what? That's a topic that I honestly don't know enough about to have an opinion yet, frankly.
Thank you. Bill?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Would you support any county initiative to increase the animal unit cap?
Personally, yes. I would go along with that. Agriculture has changed a lot in the last 18 years since the 1,500 animal cap unit was initiated, and that was just a number that was grabbed out of the air. There was no science behind it whatsoever. Farming is, like I said, it's changing. We've got families that their sons and daughters want to come into the farm. And some of them are in a situation where the 1,500 animal unit cap is just not enough to support multiple families. And I think if we want to see agriculture thrive in Winona County and...
Thank you.
Okay.
Andy?
I definitely would support an increase. Along with what Bill was saying, it's hard for young people to get into farming, and sometimes the only way to do it is to be with a family or another partner. I think it would be an asset for Winona County to raise the cap. Over the years, our number of farmers have dwindled, dairy farmers have dwindled, and more corn and soybeans are planted. Dairy farmers need hay, and that's the best conservation crop you can plant in Winona County or anywhere. So I would support, definitely support a raise on it. Another reason would be that when you have these larger dairy farms, family farms, we don't have any factory farms in Winona County, family farms, there's more money available to do the conservation things to avoid any runoff or pollution and things like that. And that's where the Soil and Water Conservation District could come in and help the farmers prevent any of those things.
Thank you. Okay, now we start with Bill. From the audience, this question comes, I believe that there has been discussion about disbanding the Soil and Water Conservation District. Are there sufficient resources of other agencies to ensure the roles of a Soil and Water Conservation District?
I believe that to be false. I have not heard any of that. It might be an outcome from this one watershed, one plan, but the local soil and water districts, their charter, if you will not change. They will be doing the same thing that they have done in the past. So I think there's a lot of confusion on everybody's part as far as what this one watershed, one plan, how it's going to work and stuff. But it's mostly, to streamline things. It's not taking away, eliminating watershed districts as far as I heard down at the meeting in Lanesboro. And its major goal is for funding, more funding.
Thank you. Andy?
I have not heard any rumors about closing the soil and water or disbanding it. I would be in favor of keeping it open. Each county is different, and I don't think you can have multiple counties using the same office. I believe that it has to be local, grassroots policy for that type of terrain in that county. Even our county is so different that you couldn't do it, multiple counties at one time. So I'd definitely be in favor of keeping the Soil and Water Conservation District in its position in Winona County.
Thank you. Terry?
I would support that too. You said it before, local level government is always the best. You're always going to have much better communication on a face-to-face basis and working directly with your farmers and landowners. Your communication is going to be much better. Your education is going to be much more effective. To remove that and put it on a regional or statewide or national level, I think would be a mistake.
Thank you. Andy, this next question, we start with you again. What efforts would have the greatest effect on our aquifers? Are we using those effects? Are there others that should be implemented? I'm going to read this one again. It's a multiple question. What efforts would have the greatest effect on our aquifers? Are we using them? Are there others that should be implemented?
I guess as a farmer and a conservationist, something that probably people don't realize is a farm pond isn't built to hold water permanently. It's built to contain it until it has time to seep in the ground and to get back into the aquafilter. So I believe that we could use more ponds all through the county to retain that water from running off and having it time to be soaking back down, filtering through the ground back into our aquafilter. I don't know of any other programs out there that would help other than, like I say, farm ponds.
Okay. Terry?
I'll refer back to the 50-foot buffer zone. There's a 1,000-foot setback for putting new wells in, a 1,000-foot setback from a feedlot. Those efforts, I think, have done a lot to contribute to cleaning up the aquifers.
Thank you, Terry. Bill?
Yeah, I think that, just about all the programs that Soil and Water does helps replenish the aquifers by slowing water down. And as Andy said, the retention ponds, holding the water, letting it slowly seep into the ground. And the aquifer, actually, I think Soil and Water does a good job with helping to protect it, but that's more of a DNR problem, but it's in their jurisdiction as far as water and aquifers go.
Thank you. Okay. We're getting near the end of our time, and so I believe this will be our final question before we move to closing statements, and we would start with Terry. Okay? Should the Soil and Water Conservation District take positions on farm-related regulations imposed by other governments? Would you like me to read that one again?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand
Okay.
what
Should
they're
the
asking.
Soil and Water Conservation District Board take positions on farm-related regulations imposed by other governments?
Yeah, I think we do right now, and we should, by the policies that we establish.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I don't know if the person means other governments from other countries or other, parts of governments of our country. But yeah, we definitely would have a voice, if we felt that there was a policy, say, set down from some of the state government and we disagreed with it. I for one would voice my concerns. Once it's passed in the law, then we have to follow it, but whether we like to or not. But yeah, I think we have a position or an obligation, to question those things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Andy?
I think that's a pretty broad statement. Personally, I would have to look at each thing that's coming down to see if it's a fit for Winona County. Again, counties and the whole state is so different that something that might be passed for the state doesn't affect Winona County. For example, it's illegal for farmers in Winona County to put anhydrous ammonia on in the fall of the year. There's only probably a few counties in the state of Minnesota that has that. So if I was in a different county, I wouldn't want that rule coming down where they have different types of soil and such. So I would have to say, I'd have to look at them, each point, and decide if it's a fit for Winona County or if it's not a fit. So I can't give you a broad statement on that. It's just point by point, I guess I'd have to look at each one.
Thank you. Well, we want to thank our candidates for the questioning time, and it is now time for their closing statements. And in our rotation, we would start first with Terry to do closing statement for a minute, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the questions. I would sum up my approach to this position with 5 things. First of all, continuing education. That's for the community and the landowners. Continued cooperation with other agencies, looking for creative sources for funding, supporting our local staff, and listening to landowners.
Bill?
Everything Terry said. No, I agree with what Terry said. I think that with some of the experience that I've had and my years in farming, I can make educated, good decisions on the board for soil and water. Our farm has been in contours since 1962. I think Alex Siebenaller laid them out for us, and I remember driving the old Oliver 77 with the three-bottom plow and following Alex around the hills and stuff like that. So conservation has been in our family for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
As I was saying earlier, when you were talking about strengths, I too served on many boards, and I didn't get time to finish what I was saying, but the main thing out of that is there's, especially on the FSA board, there's rules and guidelines that we on the FSA board got to follow. I'm sure it's going to be the same on the Soil and Water Conservation District. Sometimes the farmers aren't happy, but you got to go by what the rules are. By serving on these committees, I've learned to listen, to compromise, and make decisions based on the information that we have available to us. And again, I've had many years of experience on boards, and I think that would be very helpful for me with this board also. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then may I just say thanks to Bill and Andy. I learned a lot tonight from you. Thank you so much.
We want to thank all three of you gentlemen for a very informative evening, and we also want to thank you publicly with applause in just a moment, but we're back to another League of Women Voters commercial time. So please listen to our other opportunities. Coming up next week on Tuesday, September 20th, we have from 7 to 8 p.m. in this very same room, the Winona Area Public School Board. They will be well represented, and in addition, we have a representative coming from the district to talk about their referendum questions. Again, we will not endorse either positions that they have, but they do have 2 referendum ballot questions which we wish the public to learn that it's available to them to vote on. Our last forum this year is exciting for us. It's a first for our League of Women Voters in many years. We are hosting the 1st Congressional District. So we again invite everyone back to hear Representative Tim Walz and candidate seeker Mr. Jim Hagedorn in this very room. We're sort of putting out the challenge to the public. The room holds 182, or the fire marshal comes. Come on down, let's pack the room. With that, we would like you to also know that it's very important that we have registered voters at the polls, and we have opportunities to register those of you who have moved recently, change of address, new to town, and have lived in the state of Minnesota for 20 days. So join us Monday, this coming Monday, September 19th, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Blue Heron Coffee House. Nice public location. Come on down, and we will help you register online. Takes about 3 minutes or less, but we do need you to bring your Minnesota driver's license or an appropriate Minnesota ID. Otherwise, you need to register at the polls, and that's all out on the Secretary of State's website. Then Wednesday, September 28th, we're going to be at Blooming Grounds downtown, also another fine coffee house location in our community. And we're very pleased that both of those owners have opened up their space from 2 to 3:30 in the afternoon. So come on down, join us, and we will assist you registering online. If you need more information and can do it yourself at home, go right ahead. Dial up the Minnesota Secretary of State's office. Pretty simple. You enter in your Minnesota ID and a few other pertinent points like your address, etc., and you can be registered online, again, 2 to 3 minutes. Please remember, you must do this before October 18th. Then they close down the website. After that, you must register at the polls, and there's a lengthy list of things you need to do, including maybe bringing your neighbor to vouch that you do live next door so that you can vote and that you're legal to vote in the state of Minnesota. Of course, you have to be age 18. So with that commercial, we do want to say, please go out and vote in our general election on Tuesday, November 8th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. through 8 p.m. If you have more information needs and want to get it locally, call the Winona County Auditor's Office. She will help, or you call the Winona City Clerk's Office. She will help. And with that, we want to thank these fine candidates for our local Winona County Soil and Water Conservation District Board. Thank you again. Good night.